2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's Legends with Russell Tallman.
Here on Legends tonight, we have, oh my goodness, the young lady who actually declined to come because there was a hurricane brewing and she didn't want to mess up her doobie. We have Mrs. Samantha Lott-Velez, Assistant Superintendent of Newark's Board of Education, South and West Public Schools, on Legends with Russell Thomas. Close enough? You wasn't expecting that, right?
No.
I got issues. Uber meats for females. No, I'm just playing. Come home, I'll be sleeping on the grass.
You of us.
Yo. So since we can't hear the music, you just point when you're ready. And all right. So my friend Mrs. Lott-Velez,
That's right.
who's the assistant superintendent here of what I said before. She's over here giggling, too much water.
You know what?
We're trying to get through everything. So let's just try to. I want you to contextualize exactly what it is that you do.
Okay. So right now I oversee 13 elementary schools in the South and West wards of Newark. I'm also the principal of one of the early childhood schools, which is located right on Chancellor Avenue. Next year, it will be a part of Chancellor Avenue School, so I'm serving in that capacity as well. And with the 13 schools, working directly with principals, coaching those principals, supporting them, and as I constantly tell them in my role as a leader, my job is to make sure that I also eliminate all of their barriers so that they can do all they need to do to support children. We want our children to be successful. So my job is to make sure to be in a spirit of service and make sure that they have everything that they need to be successful for children, so that children can be successful.
So just to expand, you said you were principal of one of the schools.
I am.
What school is that? Which one?
Early Childhood Center South.
Where is that at? By Little Chancellor or?
Well, it used to be called Little Chancellor, so it was the Chancellor Annex.
Oh,
years
okay.
ago, it became Early Childhood Center South.
Okay.
And now it's going to go back into being a part of Chancellor.
Oh wow. Okay, so
Next year.
you have a dual capacity.
Yes, I do.
So with the dual capacity, they got to pay a little bit more money now.
Well, you know what? I think it's a great experience, and I appreciate the fact that the superintendent trusted me to be able to do this work. Prior to this, I was over the Office of Early Childhood.
Yes.
So I actually oversaw last year 6 early childhood centers, and then we moved most of them into elementary school. So we have 3 left, and there's a new executive director, so she took on the principalship of 2. And it only made sense that the one that's in the South Ward stays with me because it's transitioning into the big chancellor.
So you get to move your, as I said, time here. You actually get to move or transition your kids in, so they get to see your smiling face for a little while longer.
Yes, and so I'm not there every day because, of course, I have 13 other elementary schools. So
Can you name all 13?
Yes, I actually can.
Okay.
You want me to?
No. I know you can name them. I just wanted to hear you laugh.
I
that's
have a
all.
jingle to name them too. No, I'm only playing.
Oh my goodness.
I can make one up though.
Yeah, no. I don't want to put any more pressure. You got a big day ahead of you today.
Yeah.
So this is the start. So first of all, thank you for coming.
Of course.
And like I said, you knew that there was a hurricane coming. You didn't want to mess up. You had the Doobie Bobby fans in.
So those who know me know that I am scared of thunder and lightning. Is that the reason why you're bringing this up? Because I am terrified of thunder and lightning. So when I heard a hurricane was coming, the only place I was going was home.
Absolutely. to the little mega mansion. I won't say where it's at, the little mega mansion. And you were absolutely right because it was chaos that day.
It was.
But we're not here to talk weather. We're here to talk about Mrs. Samantha Monique Lott-Velez, Granny.
Yes, I am a grandma.
Yes, you are.
I'm a Mima.
A what?
She calls me Mima.
Okay, listen, whatever works for you, I don't want no problems. So, Miss Samantha, we met. You were, I want to say you were teaching fourth grade or third grade.
One of the two, yeah.
Yeah.
I taught both.
And actually you called, you left a message, and you wanted, it actually wasn't school related, it was community related.
Yes.
And you wanted, I want to say, you wanted to form a block association, something like that.
It was the South Ward Youth Association.
South Ward Youth Association.
That's right.
Listen.
Wow, you remember that?
I remember that.
So you know what's so ironic? I was going through some of my files the other day on my computer. It was actually some of my Google photos. And the brochure and the whole write-up about the organization association popped up. And I was reading through it and I'm like, wow, I need to share this with the mayor, you know, just to let him know like some of the work that was happening back then. I believe at the time he was the councilman. It was either him or James. I can't remember.
I think it was James, and then it transitioned to Raz becoming
during the time.
councilman.
Absolutely. And so I was like, I'm gonna have to send this to him because it was and that was when I was teaching at Burgoa Avenue School, and I was actually a third grade teacher there, but the program was for junior high school students, and we had just became a school of service learning. I mean, there was a lot of great things going on there under the leadership of Tony Motley, and you know, we were already in the spirit of service, so it just made sense that these children who wanted to do more for their community had that opportunity, and it was in my heart, and they used to be around me anyway, so I was like, all right. My son went to the school, he was in junior high school, my daughter went there, so I said, let me just try to form this organization to give these children something positive to do, and that was the South Ward Youth Association.
Look at you doing all kind of community work, and at the time you were a teacher. But
I sure was.
we got to be fair. We mentioned Tony Motley, who was one of my good friends. So you, in fairness, you have to mention who the superintendent of Newark Public Schools is.
Right now, of course, it's Mr. Roger Leone. Absolutely.
Okay, because I don't want no problems.
Listen, if you know his story,
Yes.
he deserves a hand clap.
Actually, I can never catch up to him unless we're going into Don 21,
He is
and
the
that doesn't work.
superintendent.
Yes, so I'd like to have him come on and he can tell his own story.
Yes.
Because we go back to when he was a vice principal at university, so I do understand.
Yes.
So, and then I believe, did I teach grade in your class? Do you remember?
Did you teach? Yes, you did.
I did teach
At
grade.
the school, not in my class specifically,
But at the
with
school.
Yep, at the school.
So you were probably teaching fourth grade, and I probably had the middle school
You had the
curriculum.
students, yeah.
Wow. And the principal at the time was.
It was Tony. It was Mr. Motley.
It was Tony.
Yes, it was.
See, wow.
Yeah.
Kind of took me back because
Yeah.
you know. Okay, but anyway.
Yes.
So with in your capacity, because now I know I'm gonna get a text, whereas I gotta have Mrs. Miller Harrington.
Yes.
She got to come through.
Doctor.
Excuse me, doctor.
Dr. Harrington.
Yes, Dr. Harrington come through.
She worked hard for that.
Oh, absolutely. Oh. When she was at Miller School, your school, McGraw, and Miller probably had to be three of my favorite schools because just because the stuff that goes on now, some principals, especially if they don't come from Newark, they're not used to the environment. But when you got principals that check parents like you ain't say nothing, it kind of makes everybody's job easier.
Yeah.
So when they had to call the school resource officer, the problems was already worked out. I just did to show up.
Right. We were just talking about that the other day, just having the relationship building with families and with our community and being able to relate to our families, because every time a parent comes up to the school, it's not, if there's a conflict, it's not because they want to come that way. They're coming in a mode of protection. They want to make sure that their children are safe. And so we can channel, those of us who have been there, we can channel that energy like, okay, this is not personal, right? This is a parent that is responding to something that happened with or for to their child. So we have to think about those things when communicating with families. And coming from the culture and from the community, we get it.
Oh my goodness, you were so on point. I think you should also have another title, maybe spokeswoman.
Okay.
See, you like that? We'll talk to when I get Roger on. I'm gonna ask him about that. How about that? So
I don't know if that's listed as one of the district titles, but
we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Listen, we'll figure it out. Question. In your capacity of all the duties that you have, I talked to you briefly about. They used to call it shelter in place, and it's basically, I don't want to say it's not escape. It's the safety leaving the school.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything new in place for that, or are you guys still doing the plans for that?
absolutely. Yes, we're still doing safety plans.
You
And
still-
we submit those to our Office of Safety and Security.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you got to do it for like 13 different schools.
Well, I don't do it directly. The principals make sure all of that
Okay.
is taken care of.
Okay, and then you oversee to make sure everything's in place.
Yeah,
Oh.
but I have a good set of principals. I don't know if I have a picture of them posted on my Facebook page from when I was highlighting them at the beginning, but they're all amazing.
All
And
on
like-
point.
Yeah, and one of the things that I always tell them is it's very intentional that all of us are in the same room.
Mhm.
Like, it's no mistake that we were put together, the group that I had. And so I see them all very differently, but we all need each other, you
Mhm.
know. And I'm blessed to be their leader, you know. And they're leaders in their capacities in their building, and even when they're with me, we all sit at the table as leaders, and so they take care of business, you know.
Obviously,
They take care of business.
obviously, and you got the South and the West.
Yes, I do.
So that corresponds with the wards, right?
Yes, it does.
Because the police department, when they broke it down, didn't correspond with the wards, so it was a little confusion.
Okay.
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, and then that the police department has their own way of doing things.
Okay.
Don't make it right.
But I know that
Different.
there's different precincts for
Right.
different communities, so I would make the assumption that there was some alignment to the wards, but maybe because of the different activity in each
Yeah.
one, they had to like break. Okay,
Yeah.
that would make sense.
It would make sense if what would be let's just say the 5th precinct
Mhm.
would be the entire South Ward,
Mhm.
but in the police department it doesn't line up that way. It lines up a little different.
Yeah.
Because at one time, way back when, there were only 4 precincts
Mhm.
and 5 wards.
Oh,
So
wow.
so they made adjustments. They'll continue to make adjustments. But anyway,
Mhm.
so such a long day that you have going on.
Yes.
So we want to keep it positive and light.
Okay. Thank you. I
Um,
appreciate that.
Yeah, listen, no problem. You know, I got nothing but love for you. There was in your domicile area, you guys were running a community garden.
Yes. Yes. Miss West started the community garden,
Mhm.
and her dad was actually the founder of our block association, the Chadwick Avenue Block Association. I lived in Newark for over 33 years, and I actually was raised on that block
Mhm.
as a child. And then my mom moved to Irvington, and then as soon as I turned 18, I came back. I purchased a home from her, and I lived there for many years. And Miss West was one of the people that watched me grow up. She actually left herself and came back.
Mhm.
And so, she had all of these amazing ideas for what can be happening in the community. And not only did she have ideas, she made sure they were implemented. And you know her, she was an advocate.
Mhm.
She made all the noise until somebody listened.
Yes.
And she was a fighter, an advocate for our community. And so we started this garden, and it was her idea. It was an abandoned lot that had been sitting there forever, and it was looking ugly.
Mhm.
And so we decided as a group that we were going to do a community garden, and we did. I'm gonna be honest, I rode past it the other day, and there is a house there right now.
Really?
Yeah, it hurt my heart a little bit, but we knew that it wasn't city property. It actually was private property that had just been abandoned for so long.
Mhm.
So the garden is not there, but there is a tree in front of my old house that she gave me, that I planted in the front of my house, and that tree is still there. So even though the garden isn't there, there's still life. Her life is still blooming in front of my old home.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, she passed away.
Yes. I'm very aware.
So, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So we're gonna switch gears a little bit because
Mhm.
little birdie told me that at one point in time, you were writing grants.
A little birdie.
Well, I mean, listen.
I need birdies like that around me. Look. So yes. So the district, we actually, as a school district, we applied for a Head Start grant. It's a federal grant. And I did facilitate the writing of the process under the leadership of Sandra Rodriguez. She was the executive director at the time. And I remember we attended this Head Start conference that one of the professional developers or vendors that were working for the district, they were a Head Start agency, and he had this big conference. And so they invited us to it so that we can participate in the work that they do on a broader scheme. And we saw that there were some public schools, not in this area, but in like the down south area that had a Head Start grant. And so, and then we learned that there was a grant that was going to be up in Newark. And so we heard about people that may have been applying for it and felt like these people weren't from the community. So we're community people. Let's apply for it. It was about 2 weeks left, and we decided to apply for the grant. And why not bring it back to the community? Like, what we couldn't have is someone that wasn't from the community getting these resources. We knew best what to do with it for children, and we knew because we work in the public schools, and we know everything that was going on with the children. So we applied for the grant, and we received it. We received the grant. That was back in 2013, 2014. And then we reapplied for it again. And so one of the things I told my team once we got the grant, a lot of transitions was happening with administration. But one of the things that I told them was my job was to, in that time period, was to make sure that we keep it. So I was like, whatever I do, because I know that God has a journey and a purpose for my life, but I want to make sure that the district sustains and maintains this grant while I'm here. And so, you know, we had to reapply for it again for another 5 years, and so that was the team's goal, to make it happen. And if you know the grant writing process, especially a grant that's going to get you $7 million, which now is like approaching 9, you don't do that work by yourself. So it wasn't just me sitting down and writing a grant. Like, it took a team of people to write the grant with our executive director at the helm of it. And then we all contributed to the writing of the grant, and we received it. And the district still has that grant to this day.
It's almost about time for that grant to be rewritten, right?
No, we actually just rewrote it, 2 years ago, and got it back again. So it's a 5-year, every 5 years. Yeah.
So Adrian, what I heard out of all of that, she got $9 million. She didn't say, Russell, I got a little extra money for some security or something up in here, you know.
It's not going in my pocket.
No.
I wish.
Oh.
Look, I'll be doing this interview on the beach somewhere.
Okay. But just the fact that you have the talent collectively to know what you want to go out in 2 weeks is usually not enough time to go ahead and that takes a certain amount of talent.
Yeah, it does. And we had a lot of people supporting us who have written grants in the past. And I think that's what's extremely important, to have people who have participated in a grant, have written grants, to give ideas around how you can operate it, you know. And so that's really what helped us get it done in 2 weeks. But the second time around, we had more than 2 weeks to get it done, and we didn't have any external partners. We had the district's grant department. Right now, the director is Nicolina Thornton, and her one of her supervisors is Barbara Evans. They sat with us and they helped us write the grant the second time around.
Teamwork.
Listen, teamwork for sure.
Wow.
All day.
All I'm saying is it was $9 million.
That's right.
And I didn't even get a text. Lewis ain't come by and throw a balloon or smoke signals.
You sound like him.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Little Jada didn't come in. I keep saying Little Jada. I remember, this is no lie. I was going. I want to say when whatever Newark Public. She was in Newark Public School. I would say, okay, now here's the FOP cards for your mom and dad. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna make sure they get it. And I'd just be so tickled. And I would close the door, and she'd turn around and go, I got them FOP cards. So I never forget that. Never
She
forget
thought
that.
she was special.
She still is.
She is very
She still
much.
is.
That's my baby girl.
And you know, I love the fact that you not only gave back to the community, you found ways to get more for the community,
Yes.
which isn't always the case.
Right.
You
Yes.
know, and now that you're possibly going on to bigger and better things, we won't get into all of the things, but I'm saying you're wearing that blue, that lovely shade of blue for a reason, and I'm
That's
sure
right.
there's a reason. And listen, we're gonna talk about that at some other time, but that'll be a lock-in as well.
Yes.
So let's forecast into the future a little bit.
Okay.
Let's go 2-3 years into the future. Where do you see Mrs. Lott-Velez?
Well, one of the things I see is being called doctor.
Okay.
Samantha Lott-Velez.
Okay. I heard that's a lot of writing, but obviously you do a lot of writing.
Right. I'm up for the challenge. And the reason for that is because, you know, part of this work of service, we're constantly pouring into others, community, our children, as a parent, constantly pouring into my children. And so for me, the biggest accomplishment for me right now would be investing in myself. You know, while I'm doing all of this work, making sure that I invest in myself, continue to be a learner, because again, when you're constantly teaching others, like how much more can you give if you're not receiving anything, right? We are definitely in a world where things are changing all the time, and so having that opportunity to learn what's going on and how it relates to the work that I'm doing so I can do it even better is important for me. I put off getting my doctorate for a really long time because I don't like doing things just to do it, right? And especially when it costs so much money, right? So I'm like, I don't have the money to just say I have a piece of paper. But what is getting my doctorate really about? For me, it's really about the research and what can I bring to the table to the world, right? When I'm doing my research. And that's what made me wait, because I'm like, am I ready to really dig into the research, and what am I actually going to do my research on? And I felt like I was like in this time of transition in my life where I was growing unexpectedly, right? Because God was saying, I'm going to put you in this position, even though I didn't wake up thinking I'm going to be in that position. He was putting me in certain positions professionally that developed me, right? And as a result of that, it's helping me to kind of garner what I really want to do my research on. I'm not there yet and solidifying it, but that was one of the things. And my heart has always been with children. Being in the classroom is where I found the greatest joy, being around children, making sure that children in schools were good. And I loved it when I did it with my own students as a teacher, then with the preschoolers. But coming back to elementary school is like full circle for me. You know, I started this walk as a teen parent, right? And someone who just needed to figure out how to take care of my child the right way, give them the best opportunities. And then I met all the right people along the way. Mr. Junius Williams, who I actually grew up with his children. He was my next door neighbor. And then I ended up at this Abbott leadership class. It was just getting started, and I ended up there with one of the Head Start parent leads. And I was like, oh, that's Mr. Williams. I know him. He was my friend's dad. And from there, he propelled me. He said, I want you to sit and write regulations with the state. And I was the only North parent, young North parent, on that committee, along with another parent from Passaic. And you know who else was there? It was the Commission of Education. It was superintendents. I was at the table with superintendents, and I was one of two parents at the table. And one of those superintendents happened to be Miss Marion Bolden,
Wow.
who was the superintendent of Newark Public Schools.
Absolutely.
And so, you know me, I'm a little feisty parent, and at the time I was teaching in East Orange too, and so they would ask certain questions around the regulations, and I would speak. Yes, as a parent, but also because I was in the classroom, so I had another experience. And one day we were talking, and I just told her, I was like, you know, I've been really trying to get into Newark Board of Education. I lived in Newark for a really long time, and I was like, you know, I'm really interested and she told me to give her my resume. And then the following week, I got a phone call by the late Renelle Ferran, phenomenal educator. And I remember I went downtown and I called. I said, I'm here. And she said, come to the cafe. There was a cafe next door.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and I sat with her and we just had conversation like you and I have. And she was eating her fruit. She said, you want any fruit? I was like, no. I was so nervous. I'm like, no, I don't want any fruit. And we were just talking. And then as we went up the elevator, she said, by the way, you have the job. And I was like, wow, I do? It wasn't a traditional interview.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I loved the most about that was that she wasn't interviewing me in terms of like just content and pedagogy, even though it was a teaching position. She was interviewing me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very important, especially when we're deciding on who's going to be before children, because I was about to be before the youngest learners in the city. And she saw it fit to get to know who I was, because who I was important when it came to who was going to be before those children that we were going to serve. And so I appreciate that about her. She was something else as a supervisor. Like, I mean, she was very meticulous, and I could literally be in the classroom teaching, and as soon as I get a break, she's like, I need you to correct this, this, and this, and this immediately. You know, like,
mm-hmm.
she was like that on-the-spot coaching. No, later on after it was over, come back and talk about it. And you know, she's not with us today, but
mm-hmm.
her children
God
are. God rest her soul, and she definitely was an amazing contribution to this world. So I ended up with the position, and then it just went from there. So I remember when Ms. Bolden was transitioning, I was at Belmont Runyon,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a teacher there, and I had ended up in these leadership positions, and you know, she was getting ready to transition, and I wrote her a letter. And I said to her, thank you, because she didn't know me from a can of paint, but she believed in me enough to give me an opportunity. And even when I did feel tired sometimes, I never forgot that opportunity that she gave me. So I told her thank you. And then I also said to her, I want you to know what I've been doing for my students, because I want you to know that what you did for me wasn't in vain. So I shared with her some of my students' testing data, and I was like, they're on the move, and I want you to know that you made a good decision.
See,
And so today I'm the assistant superintendent. Thank you.
see that?
Ms. Bolden.
So let me tell you, and this is Women History Month, correct?
Oh, yes.
It's Women History Month, so that was an excellent story.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually going to tell Adrian, could he dim the lights, because every time your hand movement, you don't have to do it, her hand movement, the diamond shines. And so, you know, it was kind of blinding me, but I was
You know what?
encapsulated in what she was saying, because it was all true. Marion Bolden was phenomenal. And if you can have as one of your mentors,
Mm-hmm.
Marion Bolden,
Yes.
superintendent, you're just going to continue to soar.
That's right. Well, no, I have so many people that have influenced my walk in this work. And it's in different ways. Like, a person can mentor, like, we define what mentor is, but I think influence is the bigger picture. Like, who are all of the people that have influenced you in some shape, form, or capacity? And I've been blessed to just have a lot of great influences, you know, and currently even under the superintendent, like, I don't, you know, and I tell him this all the time, like, when I'm in a room with him, I just absorb everything he says, and how he handles things instructionally, how he handles things in the community, because at the end of the day, his job is to make sure that children are succeeding. And so he's a visionary, and that's what I love most, and that's what I'm learning from him, that he's a visionary. And I feel like I'm a visionary too, so I want to be able to get to that level of being a visionary. And you see the work he's doing right now with our schools, and how we're changing the narrative around public education here in the city. I think that's extremely important. But it took somebody who not only did the work, but lived the work, right? He actually went to the schools, he came up in the ranks. You know, it's hard to turn around things sometimes when you don't, or situations or systems that are not working effectively when you don't know how you got there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's almost like a mechanic. You got to go get a diagnostic because you need to know, well, what is the issue before I start fixing things? He because he came up in it, I think what makes him fabulous is because he knows the issues.
He understood. He understands
So he
how
knows
we
how to correct them.
how we went left
Yes.
40 years ago,
Yes.
and then where the money goes, and how the teaching sort of went all over the place, and now he tries to bring it back. But Newark has actually been wonderful. They've had a few very good superintendents.
Yes.
But it makes a difference, just like if you were a police officer or a teacher, to be in that community, really understand
Yes.
how we got to be that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So another little birdie told me that what was it, the grade 3 transition team or something?
Oh.
You
Listen,
as a
that
teacher.
little birdie needs to get it together. But let me just. So, well, in my work as an executive director for the Office of Early Childhood, one of the requirements is for us to have a transition team that looks at the work from pre-K to grade 3. And so I engaged the district in that work last year under the Office of Early Childhood. We had representation from every SLT, every ward actually. Let me say every SLT. Principals, vice principals, teachers from multiple grade levels, representative of those grade levels, as well as curriculum, staff, directors, supervisors, and we all came together and we engaged in this work around just self-assessment. What is the current state of the transition work in our district? And we produced a set of recommendations that was shared with the Office of Teaching and Learning as well as with our Deputy Superintendent. And so I'm not specifically over that work anymore. There's a new executive director, but the work does continue. She's still continuing the work, transition work. And I'm actually taking that work and infusing it into the work that I'm doing now. And that's how when I say that there is no mistake in the work that how the universe works. So, again, it's full circle for me coming back to the elementary schools. All of the learning that I engaged in, even in my prior experience as an executive director, prepared me for what I'm doing right now. And so when I talk to people, about the progress that needs to be made in school, I'm like, if we're not looking at the foundation, because a lot of times everybody goes straight to the testing grades. What is needed for 3rd to 12th grade, because that's who's testing. But it's the foundation that's going to determine if the house stands.
Absolutely.
So we need to be looking at our early childhood experts. We need to be tapping into their knowledge base to see, number one, not just if children can read and write, but what are all of the other factors of child development that impact children getting to that point where they can be reading by grade 3? Because there are other factors, right? Children are developing more than just cognitively, they're also developing socially and emotionally, physically. So there are many things that are going on with a child that we need to be knowledgeable about when we're making decisions about how we work with children. And so part of that work with the transition committee wasn't just doing the self-assessment, but while they were doing the self-assessment, they were also learning that. So I had a lot of great feedback. Like I had directors say to me, you know what, I never really dove into what was happening with like pre-K and kindergarten development, right? Because they were very much focused on like curriculum and, curriculum writing, curriculum development, making sure curriculum implementation was taking place. But when we were together in those meetings, it was all about, well, at this age, at the age of 7, how is a child developing? Okay, so we know that they're going through these different changes or developmental stages. Now let's take a look at what they're doing in our classrooms. Do our classrooms complement their development? Do our classrooms support their development? So the conversations were rich and they were deep and they were eye-opening about things that we needed to do differently as we wrote curriculum, as we determined how we were going to transition children from one grade level to the next. And I think that's the biggest piece. I always say to teachers that this is not a 3rd grade classroom. This is a classroom full of 7 and 8 year olds. So
and there's a difference.
There's a difference because when I tell you who's in it, then you're going to pay more attention to who you are interacting with versus the actual structure itself, or 3rd grade class, 3rd grade curriculum, 3rd grade standards, 3rd grade. No, 7 and 8 year olds. Oh, who are 7 and 8 year olds? What are they like? So it's important that we bring that perspective, and that's what we focused on when we were doing our transition work.
Wow. So I noticed that even when you were teaching in elementary school, you started building partnerships.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
they're talking about going full circle. Your partnerships went from the school in general, the teachers, to being on a couple of councils, help implementing different types of schoolwork, stuff that Newark Public Schools hadn't even thought of at the time, in collaboration with people in it that you partnered with. Then you moved on and you disappeared for a little while. And in one of the, you already starting to smile. In one of the disappearances, I ran into you somewhere, and you told me that we're going to change the words a little around. But you said you can't work for AT&T and live with Verizon. So I never forgot that. We just changed, but you know what I'm talking, right? So you just let it be known that even at the time, you decided that if you were going to do the work that you wanted to do, you needed to do, you had to be fully immersed, and you couldn't have anything outside to because as we know, certain systems are a little different in the education community.
That's
put it
right.
that way.
Yes.
I think that was so unique the way you put it, and then you turned around, and you flipped your head, and said, "I see you later." But I definitely understood what you meant.
Absolutely.
It's a blessing.
Yes.
Smooth.
Yes.
Such a busy day today, and you've been so nice today. We got a little bit more because I need for you to talk to Mr. Leon.
I will.
And let him know that you showed him a lot of love.
Because I love him.
Because you believe it. You believe in him.
And I love him.
And you love him.
We have to be comfortable with saying that we love people. You
Okay.
understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, because believing in somebody and loving them is different. Like, love is caring. You know? You could believe in somebody and not care for them. You know?
Ooh.
Because what you may believe in are their thoughts.
Right.
The things they say, but you don't know them.
Right.
We in our district, we spend so much time together that you grow to love people, you know. And so when I say that's my girl, when you mentioned names to me before we came, I'm like, that's my dude, that's my girl. That means I love them because I know them. We spend time together. Yes, I believe in them, but I also care about them. I care about them.
We have so many friends in common.
Yes, we do.
One of which I won't say the person's name. Slides through Newark occasionally and leaves out kind of quick. and it's usually on an event. Actually develop quiet parties.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I mean, talented.
They're very talented.
Innovative.
Yes.
And that's what showed up in the schools. Like, we were a school of service learning. So not only was the leader innovative, but the leader taught everybody in the building that you have the opportunity to be innovative too. So what is it that you want to focus on? I'm going to give you the platform and the opportunity to do it. Now go do it. And that's what happened under his leadership.
Wow.
It's who he is, right?
It's who he is. Listen,
100%.
sometimes I would have a rough night and, milk and cookies on Springfield Avenue. And I'd get a call. I don't remember the address, but it was one of the people we spoke about. She's like, no, you just go in that room right there. Just get your thoughts together. And one of them would be, as you walked in the door, they would be like, he's not taking any visitors right now. He's in a meeting. He's in a confidential meeting. So I knew to walk around, make sure everything was okay. I think that the level of professionalism and expertise is second to none in the NPS. And even though there are things that can be upgraded and changed, you can't do everything in a small amount of time because for years things were just going awry.
Yes.
But
one of the things in strategic planning is identifying your strengths and then using those strengths to figure out how you're going to handle your challenges. And so a lot of times we as people, we naturally go to what is the problem, and we want to tackle the problem immediately. And so our focus is very heavily on what's wrong because we're going to fight to make it right. But sometimes our focus needs to be on what's right and how we're going to use it to correct the wrong. You understand? So when we start to shift our thinking, like, so much more is going to happen, because a lot of the right things are happening in our schools and under this current administration, under the leadership of our superintendent, Roger Leon. A lot of great things are happening in our schools. And we need to be asking about those things, like what's going good in the schools. All right, so what are the challenges? What are the areas of growth? All right, these are the areas, but we're going to take this and help us get to that, because we know that this works for children and that this gets them innovated and get them interested to doing the right thing, so we could correct the other pieces of the word.
My question is, when was the first time you used that phrase, strategic planning?
Ooh.
Want me to help you out?
No, tell me. Look at you.
Neighborhood Block Watch.
Okay.
Second chapter.
Okay.
Of whatever year, strategic planning was one of the things that we pulled out.
Wow.
And you implemented immediately, because you had a house that was an eyesore, and you implemented a plan through the strategic planning, because we know that whenever you have a problem, you have to find out the root cause of the problem.
That's right.
You got code enforcement involved.
Yes.
You got the mayor's office involved.
Yes.
You got sanitation. At the time, you did the board up crew and took care of all of that, and cleaned up around the property.
So who was my community officer at the time?
Probably me at the time.
Right.
Probably.
That's right.
Yeah, I learned from you guys.
Listen, and we learned from you, because at the end of the day, that partnership worked.
Absolutely.
You know, I remember at the time there was also Keith Hamilton. He was
yes.
the aide to the councilman.
Legislative aide.
Yeah. So there was and I remember having meetings with him as well about the Southward Youth Association. Like, there was, it takes a community to want to be a part, and like you said, to believe in your ideas and your thoughts for things to happen. And all of us, we just wanted to do what was right.
Absolutely.
All of us. That's why we showed up, because we wanted to do what was right. And I think what's important now is that all of us, and I'm just speaking right now about myself, you, and Keith, we're in positions to do that work. We have no choice, even though I know none of us would think differently, but to do it, right? And you served all of that time, you retired, and look what you're doing now. You're still paying it back by having these shows.
I'm learning.
Yeah, and just your questioning is like bringing about the right type of stuff for the community to hear about how we can impact change. And I listen. Before I came on, I was like, let me watch these episodes to see what.
So you wasn't blindsided.
I sure wasn't. I was like, let me see what I'm getting myself into.
They know. But wait a minute. It's funny how she mentioned Keith, because you can't mention Keith without mentioning his wife, who's also an educator.
Yes. Now, I didn't know her at the time.
Okay,
because we were just working. Like,
right.
we weren't hanging out or anything. But, yes, so right now, she is the principal over at University High School.
Yes, she
yes.
is. So
you see that? So it's like family, like they building a legacy right there.
See? So that shows you how smooth she is. She's like, I refuse to let Russell blindside me, come up with anything crazy. And I even try to get it, and this is Samantha all the time. All the time. This is Samantha. I could never get it to break character. I would even try to, Lewis. Come on, Lewis. Like, that's smart. That's just how she is. That's all right. That's all right. And you had the Block Association. They actually met. Was it quarterly?
Well, in the summertime we met monthly,
right.
And then we met quarterly outside of the season.
Right, right. I mean, you guys did so many things on the block that I really would go on unless. And then once I got to know you, I said, "Well, let me just pass through there." And you were doing phenomenal things on there, and you've grown so much.
Thank you.
From the 3rd or 4th grade teacher telling whoever child to sit down, we're about to learn this lesson, and then started building partnerships.
Yes. Yep.
And growing.
That's right.
And you have a big interview in a little while. So,
yes.
At this time, is anybody you want to shout out? Because you already shout out Roger. Anybody else you want to show some love to? This is your forum to go ahead and show them some love.
Oh my goodness!
Everything.
I should have made my list. I feel like I'm on an awards show. Look, I would like to thank. No.
Well, you're going to get a lot of awards, young lady. Still coming.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, my mother. Because, I lost my father at a very young age, and she raised me. And she instilled in me my values. She's an amazing woman. Like, I don't even know how she does the things she does, but she does them, and I appreciate her. She's still with me. She's living with me right now. She was around me so much it just made sense. I'm like, come on, but she still kept her house though. She was like, I'm still gonna keep my
yeah, just in case.
So my mom, of course, my husband, because he puts up with me. Look. And anytime you're in like this line of work, like you need somebody that can hold you up, because every day is not an easy day.
Peaches and cream.
It's not. And, my children, in this work as well, there are very long nights, and they were raised up with their mom working really late and working really hard. And sometimes they were sitting at the table with me, and then sometimes I wasn't with them. And so that took sacrifice. So I have to say thank you to them. And then to all of the people that along the way have influenced me. And I want to really shout them out. I shouted out some of them, but I spoke to you about Miss Ferran. I spoke about the superintendent. I spoke about Miss Bolden. There was also Daisy Yarbrough, who as a teacher, she made me think outside the box. There was also, of course, my former boss, Sandra Rodriguez, who pushed me and elevated me to the next step. And right now I have my current boss, Miss Nicole Johnson. She's doing that to this day. And one of the things she said to me was she wanted to stretch me. The chief of staff, Mr. Brewster, who is over staff development, I just want to share a story. I hope he doesn't mind. But there was a time where I was going through a lot of turmoil at work. Like I felt a little bit discouraged. And I remember I called him up one day and I was just told him I felt a bit discouraged. And then an hour later he said, go outside. I left something for you on your windshield. And it was a book, Who Moved the Cheese? And he told me he wanted me to read it because it was all about managing through change. And I read that book and it helped me so much, So these are people that believed in the work that I'm doing, the work that I did, my family, my community, and I know I missed so many more people. I told you about Mr. Williams earlier today, but there were so many people that they saw me and they said they wanted to help me grow and help me develop, and I'm so grateful for them.
So anybody that's left out, just would you gonna charge it to your head and not your heart?
That's right.
Because you let me tell you, you had a long list. You've always had a long list of people behind, and just like you give them their kudos, there are many more that want to give you your kudos because you are a phenomenally human being.
Thank you.
You listen. Let me tell you. She's starting to giggle again. She would call. I want to say Captain Sheila was the captain of the precinct at the time, at the 5th precinct, and you would say, can you send your community service officer? I gotta tell him something. And it just so happens the one time your mother did something crazy, but I let her talk her way out of it. And you just say, just tell your community service officer to come over here. And I get over there, like, oh, what I do now? I just want to say thank you.
Yes.
And a lot of times people don't never say thank you.
Yes.
And it's a small thing. So I never did forget that.
Oh, that's
awesome. I never did forget that. So it's all love.
It's all authentic. It's from the heart.
Absolutely. And so I know you got a big day. We only have water in the studio. But if you want me to make a special trip to send you on your journey, I will do that for you. But you got to save Lewis some. I won't leave Lewis out.
Listen, he has plenty at home that he can pour, and so do I.
So one time I went over their house, and Lewis, he does remodeling or
Yes.
whatever.
Well, on the side.
On the side.
That, yes.
Lou was just trying to figure out a way to put an elevator in the house. Because you had knocked down walls. Tell me I'm not telling the truth. I didn't forget.
Listen, we watched too much Home on Homes.
Yes.
That HGTV show.
Yes,
It had our house turned upside down.
I remember. But it was gorgeous.
Yes.
And it was the way you wanted
finished
it.
product.
And it was more room.
Yes, it was.
And that was
we opened it up.
The desired effect.
That's right.
And I think that was when your youngest son, somewhere when he was.
Yeah, he was when we were renovating it. He was actually still in my womb because I remember falling through the floor into the basement.
Ooh.
And the only thing that caught me was him, my belly.
Wow.
Yeah, some memories for sure.
Yes, we actually do go back. So, Miss Lott-Velez, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Keep doing the wonderful work.
Thank you.
I expect to get sometime in the next week or so, 2 weeks, when you find out the good news, because I'm claiming it for you. I don't want to speak on it.
Yes.
Say yes, you made that transition. You decided it's gonna be a lot of writing.
Yes.
A lot of editing.
Yes.
But you're more than up for the task.
Yes. But at the end, I'll be smarter and I'll have more to offer the world.
And at no time when you campaigning for anybody's position, we're gonna put that out here now, because we don't want to start no mess.
That's right. I'm not trying to get promoted to a level of incompetency. So go slow and do it the right way. My job is to make sure that in whatever position I'm in this moment, which is the position I'm supposed to be in, right, that I do the right thing.
And
that
you've always
I have
done
an
it.
impact.
You've always done it.
Yeah. Well, with the group of with people though.
Yes.
I never go alone. Never.
You go with God.
That's right.
Okay, so tonight with Samantha Lott-Velez, Women's History Month,
Woohoo!
soon to be student to the next level.
Yes.
I'm
right.
Russell Thomas. He's Adrian Smooth over there, the giggler. And we are out for tonight. Thank you. We clear?
Yeah, I got the music playing.
Okay. So sometimes we can interview. You are a natural.
I'm a natural.
You are a natural.
7, 8, 9.
This was good.
It's
Well,
Legends
I
of
think
Russell
because
Thomas.
we know each other too.
Yes,
You knew
yes.
all the right questions.
Yeah, you were prepared.
Yeah.
Everything I had was from the other job you had.
Yeah.
And I didn't think to ask you to update everything.
No, but it was good because it was real and it wasn't just about that.
It was, no, it definitely was.
Yeah. It was good.
So you know I'm going to have to get. Now, let me ask you. Did you have to have permission to come on?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I had
It's
to
Legends of
notify
Russell
them about the
Thomas.
communications department, 'cause that was the part that held